Hey guys, today on JD Cars, we'll be installing a set of EAG silver aluminum inner fenders on this 2014 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Sport. So if you saw the last Jeep episode, you'll know that the other side, the driver's side here, actually has a set of EAG stubby fender flares installed on the car here. They're looking sweet. I absolutely love them. And I actually held off on the other side here until we received our new EAG inner fender liners, just because I do want to show those of you with the stock fender flares how to remove them in preparation for the installation of the EAG aluminum inner fenders. And for those of you who do in fact have aftermarket fender flares like I do here, you're simply going to remove those and install the new inner fender liners. And those of you with the stock fender flares, you'll either have to remove them and modify them to accommodate the new inner fender liner, or do what I'm doing and replace them with a set of new fender flares, as I did with these EAG stubby fender flares. So enough talking, let's get the Jeep in the garage here and up on the lift, and I'll show you how to remove your stock fender flares. So I try to make this point in pretty much all of my videos. A lift is not required for this installation, but I will be using my MaxJax lift today so that I can better show you the locations of fasteners and whatnot. We'll start off with a 10mm socket to remove 6 10mm screws. There's one located right here, one located right up through this hole, 3 more across the top here, and then 1 more located right here. Next, we need to remove 5 plastic grommets. Show you the location here. We have 1 up top here, 3 across the inside right here, and then 1 more up towards the front here. I like to use this little metal grommet removal tool that I got with this kit of grommets, 415 piece kit, so this is gonna last me a long time. Picked it up on Amazon for like 20 bucks, so I'll have a link to one of these in the description below. At this point, it's just a bunch of clips on the inside of the fender flare right here that are holding it on, so we can start in the back here and pull it off. Also, before I forget, before you pull this all the way off, we do need to come underneath the front here and disconnect our marker light. The connector's right here. Just need to press down on the tab to release it and pull straight down. Looks like I forgot 1 grommet just inside right here. And our fender flare is now free to be removed. So here I have our stock fender flare sitting on a recycling bin here just to keep it from getting scratched. And I want to briefly cover what the procedure is here if you're going to retain your stock fender flares when installing these inner fenders. Essentially, you'll have to make a cut right along here to eliminate the factory fender liner, which is obviously plastic here, in order to accommodate the new EAG aluminum inner fender liners. Now, as I briefly told you earlier, I'm just going to install the new inner fender liners and then install a set of these EAG full metal stubby fender flares right on over those new aluminum inner fenders. Personally, I think if you're gonna do these EAG aluminum inner fender liners, go ahead and order yourself a set of metal fender flares as well. They don't necessarily have to be the stubby ones that I got, but I highly recommend upgrading to a set of the EAG metal fender flares. Now, before I jump into the installation process of our front inner fender liner here, I do want to cover the removal process of the stock rear fender flare. So pretty interesting. There are actually no metal fasteners back here at all. We just have 6 more of those plastic grommets. We have 4 along the bottom here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 up top. 1 and 2. So just gonna pop those out with our grommet removal tool here, and then we can pop the fender flare off the vehicle. After removing those rivets, same as before, the fender flare is gonna be secured by clips along the side of the car. So we're just gonna pop it off like so. And these clips securing the fender flares will usually break. They're not really meant to be reused, so don't be too concerned about the snapping noises when removing them. They're really not made to be reused anyways. So same as the front fender flare here, the rear fender flare will need to be trimmed roughly along this line here in order to accommodate the new aluminum inner fender liners. However, as I said, if you're installing a set of EAG metal fender flares, you don't have to worry about trimming these down at all. You can just install the new aluminum inner fenders and then bolt on the metal ones right on top. All right guys, we're back. I'm sorry for the bizarre transition here, but we've done quite a few things to the Jeep since I was last talking to you in this video. So obviously we have the EAG front bumper, EAG stubby fender flares, but also new, and you've probably seen this in my videos, is this new Rough Country Black Series LED bar, which is sweet, and this awesome 8-switch overhead switch panel. Both two killer upgrades for your Jeep, so if you haven't seen those videos, be sure to go check them out. And now, why this delay took place, it took a while to get the EAG silver inner fenders here, but we now have them in, and we also have two other exciting upgrades from EAG, but those will wait for another day. So we're gonna grab these puppies. Here's the model number, EAG aluminum front inner fender kit. Also have the rears, of course. So let's get these opened up and installed on the Jeep. So get a quick little unboxing going here. All right, great. So everything's really well packaged with a bunch of thick styrofoam here. Get a little bag with some of our hardware and some install instructions as well. More styrofoam. And here are the inner fenders. I'm really impressed by how well packaged these are. Oh boy. Wow. This is absolutely beautiful. Look at this. Here, I'll turn it around so it's the right way for you guys, but wow, absolutely beautiful. Obviously this is all laser cut aluminum. It's very well bent. The bends are very clean. I like how the EAG logo is laser cut in the center here. A little bit more airflow. And I'm not sure if you'll see it on camera here, but the entire fender has a brushed look to it. It's all brushed in the same direction. So it has a really cool brushed aluminum look. It feels really solid, and I'm psyched to get this installed on the Jeep. So let's get the Jeep in the garage and get this bad boy installed. We have the Jeep up on the lift here, and I do want to explain that ideally you do want to install these EAG inner fenders prior to installing your fender flares. Why do you want to do that? Well, it just makes things a little bit more seamless in terms of getting it in there properly. However, I have scoped it out here, and I do think that I can install it without even touching the EAG stubby fender flares here. So I'll bring the inner fender into place here. How this inner fender is secured is it uses two factory fastener locations right here. One existing hole here, and then you're supposed to drill two holes, one up front here and one in the rear of the fender. Now everything appears to line up just fine. The two top holes line up great, as well as that front one. And then the location we drill up front here lines up perfectly as well. The only issue is in the rear here. This hole we're supposed to drill doesn't really line up, as you can see. Pushing this all the way up doesn't really get far enough in to drill that hole properly, and that's being caused by this support bracket here, which reinforces and supports the fender flare. So what I'm gonna do is just trim off a little bit of the inner fender here using an angle grinder and a cutting disc, and that should give me the clearance I need to squeeze this in here and get this installed without even touching the fender flare. All right, so here it is trimmed up. Really can't even tell. I just cleaned up the edges with that disc and it's all smooth, ready to go. See how it fits. So I'm gonna remove these two H4 screws right here on this reinforcement bracket, get the inner fender in there, secure it with those two screws, and then we'll use the inner fender as a drilling template to know exactly where we need to drill those two holes. All right, so this is already very well secured with just those two screws. On either end, you do need to push up a bit to get this hole to line up properly. Same deal on this end here. So what I'm gonna do is push it up into position like this. Mark this hole with a Sharpie. I'll do the same thing up front. We'll pull these two screws, remove the inner fender, drill those holes, insert the speed clips, and then we're all set to get this installed. So now before reinstalling the fender, we need to install one of these provided speed clips over this rear hole that we drilled here. So it's pretty simple. Just slide the speed clip right on over that hole. Just make sure that that's well centered. Now we can proceed with installing the inner fender. In case you're curious, we won't be using a speed clip for that front hole. We'll be using a traditional fastener and nut. All right, here she is, fully installed on the Jeep. Looks absolutely killer, as you can see here. So, as you guys know, I bought this Jeep with these wheels and tires, and they have this silver lip on them. And I really like the way that these EAG silver inner fender flares complement both the rims and those galvanized tow hooks. The colors are all coming together here. I really like the silver on black. Looks awesome. Also, a quick note, I was unable to install this fastener here because whatever nut was behind that piece of metal is no longer there, so I couldn't secure it, but still super solid, not going anywhere. I'm very impressed with how strong it is for just a few fasteners there. So that wraps up the front. Let's move on to the rear. So in the rear inner fender box here, we have very similar contents. We have a little bag with some hardware and instructions, of course some styrofoam to protect the inner fenders and the inner fenders themselves. So let's pull one out and take a look at it. Oh wow, just as beautiful as the front one. Huge EAG logo here. I really like that logo. It looks pretty sweet. And again, the beautiful brushed aluminum look here. And we actually already have some fastener points installed on the inner fender here, which should make things even easier. So let's check out the installation process for this rear EAG inner fender. So it doesn't look like I'll be quite as lucky with the rear fender here. I can't just bolt it on with the fender on. So I will have to remove the rear fender flare. Luckily, it's just a couple fasteners to do so. So I'm gonna pull this off and then we'll get working on installing the inner fender. So once we have the rear fender flare removed, we can insert the new inner fender like so. Make sure it gets up and over this brake line so that it fits properly. The trickiest part about this is we're gonna have to mark the holes somewhat blind. Obviously it's not easy to locate where we need to mark and drill when this edge of the inner fender is inside and pretty much invisible to us. So the easiest way to do this is to get this lined up where you want it. So I'm gonna want mine pretty much all the way up like that. And then I'm gonna hold this as close as I can to the inside lip of the car, come in with a Sharpie on the outside and mark where I need to drill here. So we're gonna do that on both sides for all 4 of these fastener points. And once you have your holes marked, we're gonna drill that out with, once again, a 3/8 inch drill bit, and then we'll use the supplied fasteners to secure it in those 4 points. So I got all 4 of my holes drilled. I reinserted my inner fender here, and I checked out my holes and it actually lined up surprisingly well. Everything looks great. So the 4 fasteners we'll be using to secure this inner fender, I believe these are M6 screws. So we'll be using 3 of these and then 1 speed clip and a larger screw, which will go in the farthest forward hole right here. And just to clarify, we'll install the speed clip just like so. Oh, actually, correction. We're gonna insert the speed clip like so, and that little notch is there to accommodate the speed clip so that it doesn't bump into the inside of the wheel well. So just like that, and then insert your fastener. And here's the rear inner fender, completely installed. Super solid, not going anywhere. This thing is prepared to take a beating, I can tell. So time to get the rear fender flare installed. Then I'll tackle the other side off camera, and I'll pull this outside to show you what it looks like in the light and on the ground. Well guys, she's all done. Have her flexing up on the pine tree here again, as I have done in the past, just to give you an even better look at these inner fender flares from EAG. Oh my gosh, they look so good. I absolutely love them. Show you the other side here. Some good looking inner fenders right there. Honestly, I think this really completes the look of these stubby fender flares, because before, without any inner fenders, it was kind of weird. You could just see half the engine there, and it kind of made the Jeep look a bit junky. So with these new aluminum EAG inner fenders, we're protecting the Jeep and looking good doing it. I'm gonna bring this back up into the driveway just to give you one more look at it in the light. So just in these couple minutes here, I found that it depends greatly on where the sun is, what surface you're on, etc., how these are gonna look and at what angle. So at certain angles they appear black like this, but changing the angle, the light reflects differently and you can see the silver aluminum. So I think that's pretty cool. The camera does exaggerate how dark they are. Right now from the side, I can clearly see that they're silver aluminum, but the camera picks it up a little bit differently. And again, as I said earlier, I really like this silver on black look. We have the silver lip on the wheels, on the black tires and black rims, and the silver galvanized shackles on the bumper here. And I think all of that looks really great, and I'm glad I got a set of these EAG inner fenders. So overall, really easy and straightforward installation for these inner fenders. They look great, and I can tell they're gonna do a fantastic job of protecting the Jeep. So if you're interested in picking up a set of these EAG inner fenders, be sure to go check out the links below to ViciousOffroad.com. I'd like to thank Vicious Off-Road for making this video possible. They have one of the greatest selections of aftermarket Jeep parts on the market, and they also do own EAG, so they're able to offer some of the best prices possible on all of these Jeep components that I've shown you today here. Believe it or not, this front bumper with skid plate, winch mount, and LED fog lights was under $250. Extremely affordable, and all this stuff is extremely good quality. I haven't had any issues with it so far. I really like it. So if you're looking for high quality budget Jeep parts, be sure to check out ViciousOffroad.com and check out the EAG products as well as everything else on their site. If you enjoyed this video, please go smash that like button, share this with a fellow Jeeper if you feel so inclined, and be sure to subscribe for more Jeep content. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time on JD Cars.